Welcome everybody to the January meeting of the Family Communications Committee. Glad to have you with us. I'm just going to have Sandra make a quick announcement if we have anybody who is Spanish speaking on the line and needs to have an interpreter.
I will make that announcement now. ¿Hay alguien en la línea actual que necesita que interpretemos en español? Por favor, diga ahora.
Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, and I didn't hear any voices coming back. So we'll ask again from time to time if we see new participants. So again, welcome. We're going to be talking about one-to-one technology and the initiative that is in the works. And we have with us our assistant superintendent Dawn Brinson, who's our chief she's our chief technology officer. Oh my gosh, all the different titles. So she's here, and the format will kind of be where Dawn's going to give us a presentation, and then any questions you have while she's talking, just put those in the chat and we'll make sure that we get those answered. And then as we get through all of that, then we'll open it up for discussion. So Ms. Brinson, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, so hi everybody, welcome. First I would like to introduce my two partners here with me. So I've got Jennifer Johnson, she is the Director of Technology and Digital Learning. And then I've got Cindy Wharton, who is our Client Services Engineer. So they are actually the ones who get to implement the one-to-one plan and kind of see this process out. So
thank you for having your support team with us. They are wonderful.
Yeah, well, I need them to hopefully answer questions, so that's why they're here. So make sure that I don't say anything that I shouldn't be saying or say things wrong. So I am very excited about going one-to-one. It's something that we've needed to do for a number of years, and I'm just glad that we are at the point where we can do this. I think COVID kind of sped that process up and made it kind of abundantly clear this is where we needed to be. I think it also kind of fast forwarded the teachers' use of technology and being able to teach using technology, as well as the students using technology. So with the one-to-one plan now, we'll be able to kind of continue that learning process and kind of then also improve upon it and improve upon the instruction that kind of happened over COVID out of necessity. And now we can kind of improve it and make it even better for preparing our kids for their future. Okay, so the goals of our one-to-one plan are to provide equitable access to technology for all students, develop and promote digitally responsible students, establish uniform, effective communication among all stakeholders, and to integrate technology into the curriculum to enhance learning experiences. So our devices, we have decided in working with the principals of the last few years that kindergarten through second grade, we're going to distribute iPads. And third through 12th grade, we are going to distribute laptops, and they are the Windows laptops. We are also including in this plan to have a mounted display device in every classroom. If you've seen the classrooms and you've gone to visit your child's classroom, typically what you'll see is a projector and maybe a smart board or a Promethean board. Well, those have all been funded in the past through school funds and PTA. PTA has been absolutely wonderful, especially at our elementary schools, taking on that responsibility. When they shouldn't have, it should have been coming from the district. So we now have a plan in place so the district can kind of take over and make sure that we are getting the same devices in every classroom. So that way, once the students learn how to use it, then they're able to continue and then kind of just improve upon their knowledge. So our deployment plan this year currently is year one. We are doing New Hanover and Laney. Our plan is to get those devices distributed before the end of February. We're doing Laney 1 week and New Hanover the following week. Year two, we're focusing on Ashley, Hoggard, Isaac Bear, Wex, CTEC, Mosley, Grow, and our central office. Now, Isaac Bear, Wex, and CTEC are already one-to-one. We will just be upgrading their devices. Year 3 will be all the middle schools, all 7 of them, as well as the middle school students at Gregory. Year 4 will be grades 3 through 5. Year 5, grades K2. And then the display devices, they're going on a 7-year implementation replacement cycle. And we're doing 250 boards a year to kind of try and spread it out evenly. So we have had to add some support, because once you add more devices and you're having a device in every student's hands, we need to make sure that we have the support in place to help when things aren't working the way they should be working. So we've added additional area technical coordinators, and those are the people that go out to the school site and fix any issues, help teachers when something's not working, or help teachers when they've got something new and aren't sure how to use it. You know, they kind of help with the troubleshooting. We also are going to have a student help desk at the high schools. We are working with CTE to get that up and going at Laney and New Hanover, and we will extend that at Hoggard and Ashley when we go to them next year. We've added additional digital teaching and learning specialists. These are the people that are in the schools and will be going into the schools to help the teachers learn how to integrate technology into the classroom, how to use the new programs, how to do blended learning, how to do personalized learning. They will provide that teacher. And then we've also added a lead media coordinator. So that way we are then supporting the media specialist, and the media specialists then at the schools are actually kind of working in conjunction with our digital teaching and learning specialists. So that way everybody's kind of on the same page and moving towards that integration of technology. With this plan, we are also doing professional development for our teachers. Initially, we are doing device management. Our students are participating in some digital citizenship courses and the learning management system. You know, that is your Canvas at the high schools, your Google Classroom at middle school, and elementary school, Seesaw and Google Classroom. Then we're going to move into advanced training, which is blended learning, problem and project-based learning, students as content creators, and student voice and choice. The way we want to move the district is, let's get out of the students being consumers of knowledge and let them be creators. So we need to move to the point where students are actually creating things, solving problems, doing projects, versus the sit and lecture, copy notes, and fill out worksheets. So our outcomes are to transition from teacher-centered to student-centered instruction, to create authentic opportunities to learn and achieve the North Carolina standards, provide opportunities for real, purposeful, and effective collaboration inside and outside of the school classroom, and to leverage technology for differentiation of instruction through the use of digital resources, student choice, and alternative assignments. Okay, so I'm ready for questions. Oh, I do want to say one more thing before we get to the questions. So the other thing that we are doing, because one question that has come up is, you know, we need more technology now. We need to have more devices in the schools now, and we can't wait. So what we are doing that's going to kind of help us in two manners is, like, as we go to New Hanover and Laney, the existing laptops and iPads that are in those schools, we will be pulling those out and repurposing them in other schools. So yes, it'll take 5 years, but as the years go through, there'll be additional devices at every school level. So that way, teachers then start seeing more devices in the building. That'll help prepare the teachers. So we're not having to wait 5 years before a kindergarten kid, you know, can really start, you know, doing one-to-one and teachers teaching that way. There'll be more devices that they'll be able to do more with what they have, and be able to have the devices more often, and kids using them more often than what they are now. Okay, so now questions.
Okay, now don't be shy.
It looks like we do have a question in the chat there, and I feel right now that there are so few of us that if you do have a question, feel free to, you can unmute yourself and ask, and we can answer those one at a time. But we'll go ahead and I'll start with this first question in the chat from Ashley. Does the device stay with the child throughout their career in the county, or do they receive a new one every year?
The device will stay with the child.
If they move from 8th grade to 9th grade, the device is continuing with them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and how often is the device replaced? Are we doing like 5-year rotations? You know, you get the same device in 8th grade that graduates you through high school, or what's the timeline there?
So the design right now is the devices would stay at the elementary level with the elementary student, and it would be rotated. So, and the middle school and a high school. So a freshman coming in would get their device. It would follow them all through graduation. And then at the end of graduation, unless it needed to be replaced due to, you know, not working, it would be turned back in and we would repurpose it. That's 4-year replacement cycle. Yes.
So Cindy, can I ask a kind of a follow-up on that? So what I think I'm hearing you say is that the 3 through 5 kids will keep theirs for their whole time, 3, 4, 5. And then when they move up to middle school, they will get a new one for 6, 7, 8. And then they move to high school and they get a new one, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that how that works?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does that make sense, Ashley? Seth, you look like you're just dying to ask a question.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you. I was curious, in the digital citizenship training, is that where you all will work with teachers to help reduce, I guess, gender bias when it comes to technology? I know that sometimes we think male students or young boys are more technically savvy, but I think there's just an opportunity here to encourage girls in STEM. And, you know, will we be training our teachers to be unbiased when it comes to girls and technology?
Yes, we will. It won't be the digital citizenship process that'll do that. That's courses on just basically just the safety of kids. I mean, we've all heard out there all the ransomware and all the horror stories about, you know, adults acting like kids online and, you know, or kids sharing information. That's what that piece is going to be about. It's going to be some courses that the kids are going to take, very small. We're talking a matter of maybe less than a few hours that they'll kind of work through, just as kind of reminder of those things that they have been taught over and over again. You know, you don't put your full name and your address online. You know, you don't talk to somebody you don't know. You definitely don't put, you know, any kind of personal information. If you have a credit card, because our high school kids do, you don't want to enter that online in certain places. It's that kind of safety piece. However, the other piece you're talking about, our state does have a computer technology curriculum that's come out in the last few years. And so we are going to be working with all of our teachers to be implementing the computer skills in all areas. For example, computational thinking. You know, people kind of think that is just dealing with a certain subject area, just your math. But that actually kind of works on all areas and prepare students for the STEM kind of curriculum and courses. We will be doing a computer coding summer camp this year at our middle schools. That's going to be for all of our students. So we are going to be implementing other things that is going to be open for both boys and girls, because we definitely don't want to have those gender biases. So we will be talking about those all the time, but that isn't necessarily a part of the curriculum as far as a whole. That's just going to be part of what we're going to be talking about and encouraging, you know, all students to enter the field of technology, because this is just growing and booming.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we continue, we've had some additional people join, so I just want to make sure that we don't need any language interpretation. Sandra, if you want to go ahead and ask that question again.
Of course. ¿Hay alguien aquí que necesite traducción en español actualmente? Por favor, dígame ahora.
Okay, I see a hand raised, Russell.
Yeah, I have that too, so I'm going to come to them next. So
It seems like there is not none.
Thank you, Sandra.
Okay, and then let's move here to this hand. I've lowered your hand. I've asked you to unmute. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, hello. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Okay. I just this may be OBE already. You guys might already have a solution to this, but I only have a first grader, so we're only using iPads, I guess, in the classroom right now. But I have friends who are in Onslow County, and I know in the past years they've run into issues where the school computers can only connect to certain websites if they're on the school Wi-Fi. So when they got home, they had trouble, submitting, homework and stuff like that. Is that going to be an issue, or have you guys already resolved that? Over.
So we do have security on our devices and an umbrella client. Anywhere that that our teachers should be sending our students to upload documents or send assignments, they should be able to reach from home once they've connected to your home Wi-Fi. Of course, it's meant to protect students from going to any other sites that could have malicious software or any content that they shouldn't be seeing.
So the idea is with our devices, whatever site the kids go to when they're in our school buildings, they'll be able to get to those same sites at home. Whatever sites we block in our school building, those sites will be blocked at home as well. Because legally we are required on our devices to provide filtering no matter where the device is at home or at school. And luckily COVID over the last year has allowed us to test that out, and we've had no issues with it that I know of.
So Dawn, are students allowed to, on school system devices, are they allowed to access Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all that kind of stuff?
We block that for students.
Okay, so when they take their device home, they won't be able to check social media on their school issued device.
That is correct.
Okay.
And did I hear another question pop up there?
I think Ashley has one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys said originally. I think a 5-year timeline to get devices into all these hands is very slow. And, I know it's all about funding and all that, but I mean, it just seems like technology is so hot, and obviously we've learned so much from COVID. So if there was a way to really get, especially into the middle and high schoolers, I mean, I feel like they're going to be left behind when they head off to college if they don't know how to do this, create this presentation or research this issue and things like that. So I wish there was a way to kind of speed that process up for sure. But then also talking about access, what about the children who, maybe don't have internet at home? How are they not going to also then be left behind if they're given an assignment to do at home, or how are they going to connect to the internet?
So over COVID, we had hotspots that we used, and we still have some of those. Even before COVID, we had some base hotspots that could be checked out at the middle schools and high schools, not a lot. But I actually have a meeting next week with a representative from T-Mobile about a project that they have that actually provides hotspot access to students that qualify. You're talking about, probably students on the free and reduced lunch. So we have that. I have that meeting next week, and to see if we can get that moved into place so that way we can actually provide some access at home. And I agree, Ashley, as far as the timeline. I'd love to be able to speed it up, and I even looked into doing that. But you're right. The idea is that the staff that we have and being able to kind of, because the year that we're doing all the middle schools, that's going to be a tough year to get all that out in 1 year. But I feel like we need to, because I agree. And so that's that third year. And that's part of the reason why we're kind of taking the devices that are in the schools. So the existing stuff at Laney, New Hanover, will get pushed down to the middle school. So we'll be adding more devices. So all the laptops at Laney, all the laptops at New Hanover, they'll go down to middle schools and elementary schools. And then when we do all the other high schools next year, we'll be doing the same thing. So that way we are increasing the devices at every level, even though they may not be one-to-one. So we're giving them more access. We're trying the best we can.
So, Ms. Brinson, could you describe to some of the parents what technology is already in use in our schools without the one-to-one, to kind of get to that point, like the mobile computer labs that are carts that go around and that schools have computer labs, so kids are not left without current technology?
Certainly. So we started out, when we started putting desktops and computers many years ago, we actually put like 4 student desktops and 1 teacher desktop in every classroom, and that was our standard for desktops. And we had fixed labs. And then when we moved from the fixed labs to the mobile labs, we actually put 12 mobile labs at each of the 4 comprehensive high schools. We put 6 at the middle schools, and the elementary, if you had less than 500 students, you've got 3. If you had more than 500 students, you got 5. So we started with that. Then schools started using their funds to add additional to it. I want to say like Laney probably has like 13 to 15, I guess, laptop carts.
Yeah, they're over 20 now.
A lot of the elementary schools were buying additional iPads, and they're breaking apart the carts. It's funny how we go. So they went from fixed labs to all these carts. And now they're realizing, we may not need all the carts at one time. So they're breaking apart some of the carts at some of the schools. So that way each classroom may have an additional 7 to 10, iPads. So that way they can kind of, with the stations, especially in elementary school, they're able to use the devices that way. So that's kind of how they're doing it. And they're leaving maybe some carts together for maybe the upper elementary. So schools have definitely added a lot of devices. Our plan now is, because of COVID, we're kind of moving away from the desktop model and into the mobile model. So God forbid something like COVID happens again, everybody will be ready to take their device and go home, and then we'll be able to move much smoother into the remote and virtual world. I'm hoping that never happens again. I'm hoping that, COVID is it. We have nothing after this.
Dawn, I have a question too, and you touched on this in your presentation in regards to support for our students and having some of our students also supporting other students. Do you want to talk more about that and what that's going to look like for our schools?
I'll let Jennifer answer that one.
So we have students have applied and they've experienced a real interview. So the technology department has gone to the high schools. We have done interviews with them in a roundtable kind of interview setting, giving them that experience, to have a true interview, be able to ask questions, explaining to them the role of the interview and the conversation, and that it's, to make sure it's a right fit for you as well as us. The students are going to be working closely with our technical help desk. So there will be students on site, both in New Hanover and in Laney this year. They've all been identified. They will be helping to triage any people that have any issues with their laptops. They can go to them. They'll be sitting in the media center. Students, when they're one-to-one, they will be able to put in tickets with any issues themselves as well. That will come to our help desk, and that these students and our student help desk will be able to work on those tickets as well. So they're going to be helping to triage. They're going to be any broken laptop, they'll be able to replace for them right on site. They're also going to be working on a blog. It's going to be a student help desk blog to kind of just give their peers tips and tricks on using the device. And I think that's about all. That's it for now. We do have them started. So they've already started in New Hanover. We have 2 students that were interested in New Hanover. They started, and we have 4 in Laney. They will start actually next week. So they're going under, right now, they're in the middle of training. So we have training for them. They will be also shadowing our ATC, our technical person on site. So they're going to be getting hands-on training as well. These are also paid positions.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, have you clarify that these are kind of like internships, internal internships for students. Are there, just for the parents who are listening, who might go back and listen to this or see it on the YouTube, are there any curriculum requirements that they need to have already completed in order to be eligible for these internships?
Our CTE program, it is a CTE and internship. So, having certain computer classes, that was a requirement. And a lot of it also is, customer service type skills, but CTE is running the actual requirement portion of it. I don't have that in front of me as far as particular requirements, but I know they have to have a couple computer classes.
No, I think that sounds awesome, because anytime we can let kids help kids, it works so much more smoothly. It seems, because they know their own language.
Absolutely. They're very excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, others, don't be shy. No question is a wrong question or a dumb question. Every question is good. Helps us all learn.
Dawn and team, I'll open up a hypothetical for the group and just to kind of talk through it. I mean, top of mind right now is obviously the transition tomorrow due to weather to a remote learning environment, and differentiating the definitions at the state level, virtual versus remote. I don't want to get into that, but aspirationally, we're a few years into the future, and one-to-one is piloted, it's rolled out, devices are in hands, folks are trained. Does it look any different tomorrow for our students? Is there increased optionality for the instructors, for the teachers, and for the students? I mean, does anything change between now and 5 years from now when we're done with this plan?
Totally. So 5 years from now, if we have a weather event, basically we are able to we'll still call it remote learning, but kids will be able to do their stuff online. So at that point in time, everybody will be able to leave the building, teachers, staff, and students taking their device with them, and they will be able to use their learning management system. Teachers will be able to Zoom with them, and they'll be able to use the learning management system to respond to the questions. So the only thing we can't prepare for is if power goes out. That's the one thing I'd love to be able to prepare for and say that this is a great solution for hurricanes and everything when we have them, but unfortunately the power predictability. So I'd love to be able to get wireless power. If we could get wireless power, I think we'd solve all those problems.
Yeah.
Dream on, girl.
And just to follow up just real quickly, because I think you hit on it, Dawn, but there's not teachers especially, but also staff members to one-to-one, because while it's surprisingly in some areas behind, we don't have total staff, total teachers on a personal laptop-like device that they can really work from anywhere should the situation require it. Is that correct?
That's correct. So you have, at some schools, teachers do have a laptop. At some schools, teachers just have an iPad. And then you have like office staff, or your media specialists who all they have are desktops. So when we have a day like today or tomorrow, and we're saying, everybody's going to work from home, they're scrambling because, there's stuff they could do, but unless they can get a laptop, they're not able to do it. So as we progress towards, this one-to-one and move through these next 5 years, that will definitely see that problem kind of going away. And so if they need to be able to work from home, they're going to be able to work from home. The same issue, Josh, goes like with COVID, so if somebody's having to quarantine, they're not sick, but they're having to quarantine, if they had a laptop at home and can do their job, then they can continue doing it. Some people do, some people don't. But it will definitely be more equitable if we're able to make sure that everybody's able to.
Thanks, Tom.
I think Josh brought up a good point too, just talking about how are we going to support our teachers and the rest of our community in learning, through one-on-one training. I mean, I think our teachers have taken on tremendous burdens over the past few years with, all this COVID and like remote learning and there's all these balls they've had to juggle and, stuff they really weren't prepared for. So I think it will be very important to have a significant amount of technical staff available to show them how to do it and then be there to actually help them implement. And, we all know what it's like when you get, your computer screen goes crazy and you don't know what to do. And it's like, oh, unplug it and replug it in. It's always the first step, but there's probably a lot more that teachers will need to work with, their classroom full of 20+ students and all that. So I think that's also important to really make sure we have the support staff in place for everybody.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we made sure we added that in the plan, and we had the conversation about, okay, so what do we need in order to be able to support this? What additional staff do we need to make sure that when something goes wrong, we're able to fix it quickly? Because something's going to go wrong. A device is going to stop working. An access point is going to kind of go down. We're gonna, that happens. So the goal is to fix it as quickly as we can, so that way there's not a loss of instruction. And those are the conversations that we're having with the teachers in this initial training is, stuff happens. Something's not going to work. Technology, always, fails at the worst time. So, have those backup plans. But let's also make sure we're doing everything up front so we're prepared for, and those worst possible times don't happen as much. So, because all we know is a backhoe could be digging a hole, across the street in a neighborhood and could cut the fiber to the school. And then there goes all the internet at the entire school. So then it's a matter of changing plans and what you're going to do. So we're having those conversations with teachers because because the first thing everybody does is they kind of freak out a little bit, but then it's a matter, okay, we've done this before. You've taught before technology. So let's go back to how we used to do things and kind of work things through. So yes, that is something we're working with the teachers on. We're also planning to do some troubleshooting little videos for them to kind of help them, with some basic troubleshooting that they are able to do, teachers are able to do in their classroom. So when a kid has a problem, they might be able to help them or point them in the right direction to kind of find a quick solution as well.
So Dawn, I had and Cindy, and Ashley, I had a follow-up question about the student help desk. Are they available only during school hours, or will they be available after school hours?
Just school hours.
Just school, okay. And so another thought I had was perhaps as we're rolling this out, we can bring in our PTAs, PTOs, parent support groups, and maybe have like a workshop or, online workshop or an in-school workshop on just what it means, how to operate a computer, because there are some parents probably that don't necessarily, understand, all the platforms that we use and how to navigate that kind of stuff. So that might be something, or maybe you've already thought about that.
Yeah, as we're moving out, we definitely, as we move to the middle schools and elementary schools, we knew there's going to have to be the rollout's going to look different. We're going to be bringing parents in. We're going to be doing parent nights and having those sessions and talking about what the kids should be doing and the safety piece of it and then what they can do at home to make sure. Because the other piece is you want to make sure that we don't want kids to be on these all night long, and so it's a matter of watching and monitoring is that piece of it, making sure that we're kind of having those conversations with parents and reassuring parents that, yeah, we have these things on here to stop the kids from getting to these inappropriate sites or to these things, the social media that you don't want to get them to. But as much as we try to stay on top of all that, there's always somebody, like we're always a step behind when people try to do something. So we are pretty rigorous in making sure that we are protecting our students and protecting our staff as much as possible. But there is never a 100% guarantee having those conversations too. So you still need to have those, like, when my daughter first had her laptop, that's why I wouldn't let her be on a desktop when we had one. I didn't want her in the other room. So when she was on her laptop, I was in the room with her. So I could see what she was doing and making sure that she was being safe. So it's a lot of those kinds of conversations that we are going to definitely be having as we kind of move down the grade levels of this rollout plan.
Another question would be like, what kind of accommodations are you making for children in like the EC programs? You know, I mean, not everybody can function super well on an iPad or a computer. Are you, what considerations, I guess, have been made to include those children?
So we're working with the schools to determine what those needs are for those students, and we'll provide them the appropriate device that they can work with and any other accessories such as a keyboard or a mouse if they need it. And those devices will be available to the students and kept in the classrooms for them.
And then available to go home with them if necessary?
If necessary, yes, ma'am.
It looks like we have a question in the chat here. I had to join late. What is exactly one-to-one device plan?
So the one-to-one device plan is basically where we are in 5 years rolling out one laptop or iPad to every student. We're giving every kindergarten through second grader will get an iPad, third grade through 12th grade will get a laptop. We are starting at the high schools. It'll take us 2 years, this year and next year, to do the high schools. Then it'll be middle school, then grades 3, 5, and then grades K2. So it's where we are giving every kid a device that they are able to use at school and use at home. And the benefit for using our device, because that's one question we've gotten from parents, is, you know, my child, I just bought my kid a MacBook for Christmas. Can they not use their MacBook at school? Can they continue using that? Well, we want them, the answer is going to be no. We want them to use our device. Our device is going to have all the software on it that they need, you know, while they're at school. When they're at home, that's fine. Use their MacBook at home, but we'd rather them to use ours. One is that way you don't have the risk of something happening to that MacBook when it's at school, or that personal laptop when it's at school. It has all the software on it. It has all the protection on it. And we're also keeping our network safety secure.
That was a good point on that too, about bringing personal devices to school.
And it looks like we have a question here from Tracy. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can ask your question here.
Yes, thank you. I just had one question. I got in here a little late and was wondering with the devices able to go home and whatnot, and let's say your kid is sick and has to stay home from school, I understand that they'd be able to still participate in class, but would they be counted absent from school if they had to stay home?
I know pre-COVID, because COVID changed everything and things are kind of muddy right now for COVID. So pre-COVID, if a child was sick and stayed home, yes, they're marked absent. And they still have to make up the work and do the work. During COVID, you know, there was a time in which that I know it was very hectic for teachers when teachers were teaching kids face-to-face and teaching kids online. We can't go back to that, because that just was not the best solution for students or teachers. So like once we roll out the one-to-one, the kids home and they have the flu or some stomach bug, they'll still be able to do their assignments because they will be in either Seesaw, Canvas, or Google Classroom, so they'll see the stuff. And our goal is to try and get teachers to even start putting up videos of their instruction. So that way, even if a kid's home, they can still see a video of the instruction, so that way they're able to not miss as much. But you know, a teacher's responsibility is to teach the students. And when a kid misses a day, they are missing instruction. They may get the assignment. There's still usually some instruction that goes with the assignment. So that it's still a teacher's responsibility to make sure that that kid gets that instruction. So we don't want the idea that this technology is going to replace the teacher's responsibility of making sure that they teach the students and provide that instruction. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, but I understand. You know, you don't want people just to say, okay, my kid's gonna stay at home and we'll just watch her do homework on the computer and send it in. So that was kind of my concern, if people are gonna take advantage of that, or my kids might say, well, I just don't feel good today. I'll just do my homework on the computer. So.
And I think it's a legal question, the question you asked, and I'm sorry, I just don't know, but I think what you're asking is basically attendance is a legal question. And I'm probably 80% certain that the answer is no, they will be counted absent. And this is after COVID. I know COVID buddies, I really don't know right now with COVID how we sit with attendance and how that's done. But pre and post COVID, they would, if they're not there, they are marked absence. It'd be an excused absence with the note, but it's still an absence.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was wondering.
So I'm Tracy, I'm making a note of that, and we will find out that answer, because that is probably something more people have as well. So I'm not certain, Mr. Smith, how is the best way to communicate that, but you can always reach out, to my email or to Mr. Smith's email, and cause I don't have yours, and I don't know if you want to share it, in the chat, but we can certainly find that answer out, because you're probably not the only one that has that thought or that question. So yeah.
I mean, especially since there was one time in which, during COVID, when you weren't, that you were home and you were off site, and that was the attendance. I'm present off site. So, I mean, it's a very valid question. And because of where we are in the COVID world, I think we definitely need to address that and talk about that. So very good question.
And I'm thinking it's not even the COVID world. It's like just regular world, because that it's pretty valid. Like people, let's just go on vacation, and we'll just check in at 9 o'clock every morning, and do our work. But yeah, so I'm putting in the chat, Tracy, I'm putting in my email address, and I'm going to type in Mr. Smith's email address so that you can reach us, or and maybe just send us a memory jogger so we can get back to you directly.
Okay, thank you. I do appreciate the emails. Don't know how to respond to the chats on this thing, so I can't put mine in.
Well, that's
but
okay.
I can tell it to you if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll write it down.
No, Tracy, do you want, when you give this, you are giving everybody your email address, and I think this is recorded to be on YouTube.
You're right.
Your email address.
Okay.
So Ms. Craybill gave you hers and Josh's, and there's our work one, so it's fine. So better that you email them.
Thank you. I need to take the digital citizenry class and make sure that yeah.
All right. So where do I find the transcript of this so I can get the email addresses?
They're also, Tracy, you can also find them on the New Hanover County Schools website. If you go under the Communication and Outreach Division, you'll be able to find Mr. Smith's email. And then if you were to click under divisions and go under Board of Education, you will be able to find Ms. Craybill's email.
Okay, so Mr. Smith and Ms. Craybill.
Yeah, and Tracy, I've got the simplest name known to man. It's just Josh.Smith at NHCS.net. So if that helps.
Josh.Smith
at NHCS.net. Yes, sir. Yep.
.net. All right, very good. I will send you an email.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions out there from our folks that are still online with us here?
I just want to open up one more sort of conversation, Dawn and crew, and that is around, we talked a lot about the hardware, how that could be transformational if we harness it right, how we're going to get it to the hands of folks that need it, how it's going to move back and forth. We haven't talked a whole lot about the software other than the restrictions. What's going to be the roundabout process to ensure that the software that we're utilizing, the apps, et cetera, are in the best interest of that grade at that time, or that we're not just using or allowing bloatware or, you know, apps that really have no place in that curriculum at that time off of these devices?
So we have a process that we've been working on, and my division has been working with instruction and accountability division to come up with a process that that basically we'll be sharing out with principals at our next principals meeting, where they're going to complete a form. So I'm a teacher and I've been doing some research and I find this website that I like, or an app on an iPad that I like. The first thing I have to do is I'm testing it out, seeing whether it's valid. I take it to the school improvement team or with the district MTAC committee. Sometimes it's both. And I basically present it to them and say, hey, school improvement team, there's this app. I teach 6th grade math. This app will help my students in this way. And I really would like, I think we should use it across the school. This is what it costs. This is what we're doing. And then the school improvement team, they decide whether they want to pursue this or not. And then the principal has to give their okay. So then there's a form that they complete and they decide whether it's curriculum, whether it actually teaches stuff, or whether it's an instructional tool that typically is just used to show something, you know, like Kahoot is an instructional tool, where a curriculum is like Khan Academy is a curriculum. So then it depends on which it is. Then we do review that site. We review the site to make sure it's FERPA compliant. We review the site to make sure it's COPA compliant. And what that means is that we are protecting students that are under the age of 13, and making sure that we are not asking for anything, any information that we shouldn't be asking for. We also make sure that the site houses, you know, their servers where stuff is housed is in the United States. We don't want to use an application where they house their stuff in Russia or China or another country that is kind of sketchy, you know, when it comes to their technology. So we do those kinds of things. So the form is filled out. They have to fill out these questions, answer these questions, and then we'll get an email. We'll do our research into it. And then if it's a tool, then technology will decide yes or no. If it's a curriculum, then instructional services will. And it very well may be that instructional services says, no, you don't really need this tool because we already have this tool. We bought this curriculum, we already have this tool, and this is what really the teachers should be using. So we kind of go through that process, and then we actually even do a data sharing agreement with the vendor. So we work through, we have a standard form that our attorneys have done. We send it to the vendor. Sometimes we have to go back and forth between the attorneys to make sure that there's an agreement that they sign, because they do have our student data. So there is a process that we go through. And right now we're in the catch-up phase of it, because we hadn't been doing it for a while, and so we're kind of doing catch-up and kind of rechecking everything. We've had people submit, but the data sharing agreement is new, and so we're kind of making sure we're going back and double checking everything. And now that we have standard curriculum at a lot of our levels, especially at the elementary, we're going back and reviewing these other things to make sure, you know, we don't want to duplicate. You know, if we're saying, you know, Eureka Math is our standard curriculum at elementary, then we don't need to be buying all these other math curriculum. We need to make sure that teachers are using the standard curriculum. So we're kind of doing that process to kind of check things out. And then there will be on the website, there'll be a list of what's approved, what's not approved. So we've been actually researching a vendor that actually houses all that information together, and it does it in a nice way where parents are even able to look and see the applications that schools are using, what's been approved, what's in process, and then what's been not approved. Because that's almost as important as knowing what's approved, is knowing what's not approved. So making sure your kid isn't using something that is on the not approved list.
Josh, you also mentioned bloatware.
Yeah.
As we all know, the devices come with, you know, all kinds of software for the manufacturer. From a client services perspective, we're paring that down to a base image that is just what is required of New Hanover County Schools, and removing all the bloatware like the Xbox stuff, the game bar and everything. So it's focused purely on instructional needs.
That's fantastic. And everyone watching, I promise we didn't plant that question, but that was a comprehensive answer. So thanks, y'all.
Regarding Josh's point, I had a question about now with all these devices being in the hands of everybody, do you feel like more emails and things like that will be going on, and kind of what are you doing? What does the county do from a perspective to monitor emails or to prevent things happening through emails that we shouldn't, bullying and other situations like that?
So we, right now, we do archive every email that goes in and out of our system. So we do have copies of that. So if a child, goes to an adult and says, I got this email, as a matter of fact, it just happened today. I'd gotten a notification from a school that somebody got a hold of another kid's email account and was sending inappropriate emails to other people. So when we're made aware of that, we're able to go back and do the research and find out, where that email came from, what was the process, and address those issues. So we do archive everything, so we are able to go back and look.
Yeah, that's a really good good question, Ashley, because the safety of our students, is the utmost of importance, and making them feel safe and comfortable at school, so there has to be that trace, just like any of our coaches and our teachers who send emails back and forth to students, on a based on curriculum, and sports teams. Okay, so we only have a few parents who have stayed with us on the call. We have just a few minutes. If you have another question that you'd like to ask before we end, then that is non-IT related, go ahead and let us know. Otherwise, we will call it a wrap early. So Ashley and Tracy, you were like the last people standing. So yeah, go ahead if you've got anything, or if you just want to throw something out for us to consider for a later topic.
It's like an AMA.
Yeah.
Free for all.
Yeah.
No, we just like to say we appreciate you guys, and this idea. I think it's. I wish this was out whenever. Back in my school days, wouldn't have to carry 7 books home in a book bag.
Right. We're saving backs.
Yeah. So we just appreciate you guys bringing this up and working on this as hard as you can. And I really think it's a good idea.
Thank you for your feedback. And we're always here. If something pops up between now and after we get off this call, then now you have 2 emails, Tracy. So you're armed. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Tracy. I appreciate you guys looking into this. I mean, this is obviously the future, and our kids need to be prepared for it. So everything we can do to get them there in a safe way, but then also really teach them and have them teach each other. And I mean, all of it's working together, I think is great.
Yeah, and we're working really hard to, because yes, getting one-to-one, we are behind the wheel, but we are working on other things. So we are working through, a lot of coding stuff, since that's where things are going. We're doing some investigations into esports and trying to see how we can bring that into the curriculum. So our goal is to not always stay behind like we are now, Ashley, is to kind of move things up, get caught up on the one-to-one, but while we're doing that, still move out to what's the next thing out there that definitely our kids can benefit from.
Okay. Well, I just want to, thank you again, Dawn and Cindy and Jennifer for taking your time to explain. I thought, I every time I've heard this presentation probably like 15 times now, and every time I hear it, I glean something new, and it also seems like you've thought of another thing, or you've answered a question that came from another presentation. So I just appreciate so much you and your department, keeping up on this and keeping us all, into the 21st century. So that our kids can be prepared for whatever comes next at each grade level and beyond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Adams is also on our Board of Education. Did you have anything that you'd like to add?
Caught me while I was doing a final doodle.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, I appreciate this presentation, and Dawn, as always, your team is just doing exceptional work, and I'm excited, to see the rollout. It's a long time coming for our district, and I just think it's fantastic to open up this opportunity for our families to be able to ask these questions. And I'm excited to see the next steps as we see the actions starting with Laney and Hanover. So thank you.
Yeah, I do want to say that we are having a website. So we are working with Josh's team to create a website for the one-to-one rollout. And so that should hopefully, cross our fingers, we get everything up, go live by the end of the month, by the end of January. So that way it'll have information there. We also are having a frequently asked an FAQ page on that for questions that have been sent in for us from parents as well as from teachers and students. So we'll have information there as well as resources and videos for students, and kind of like how to attach your laptop to your Wi-Fi at home, how to install a printer on it, you know, from at home. So we're going to have some different videos and stuff and some information there. So as that site comes out, if there's things that those of you who are online think it would be good to add to it, by all means, email suggestions about, you know, hey, it'd be great if you had something on this, or great, you know, if it's a little video on how to do this would be helpful. That would be wonderful.
All righty then. So everybody, you know, batten down your hatches and get your jammies on so you can spend today, tomorrow in when we're iced in. But don't forget to pull up your computer and do your remote learning and your remote working. So thank you very much.
And to clarify, remote doesn't necessarily mean computer.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right.
Virtual remote.
My son brought home a packet today, and we have already decided when that packet is getting done, and we are ready to go.
All right.
Stay safe, everyone. Great talking to you this evening.
Everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.